Howdy, howdy, cowpokes. How we doing out there in ranch land, OTS Ranch? Welcome to the OTS Ranch and Emo Cowboy. How you doing today, Tyler? What's happening?
Doing fantastic. Chat, Cody.
I had to do it.
Howdy.
As soon as you agreed to come on, I was like, what do I got lying around the house? I know I have a cowboy hat, and that's what led to found this sucker. I got about 4 of these, but
Ooh, yeah. I like the underdog one, but I gotta get me some Philip Rivers, some pearl, some big fat pearl or something like that.
that'd be a little pricey on the bank account, but I dig it.
That's why we gotta win tonight.
That's right. We're obviously gonna be drafting. We'll at least do one. I don't know how much time Tyler will have. We'll take it from there. We're gonna play it by ear. We're just gonna kind of wing it. So let's say hello to the chat. Maggie King, what's happening? Al Boogie's in the house. We got Who Hames, Putt Daddy, what's going on? Stephen Hines, good day to you all. You betcha, man. Appreciate it. Stephen W. What else? Rest in peace for Strepo. We'll talk about that in a second here. We definitely got to touch on that. Wide receiver 1 Hawkinson. Geez. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Kelly.
It's every man's dream for a woman to call him cute.
Right. Side note, we'll finish saying hi to the chat, and I'll tell you the best compliment I've ever gotten in my entire life. 1 second here. Nice hat, love it. Yeah, that's right, Putt Daddy. We're doing it. Cowtown. I live basically in Cowtown. Yeah, the Calgary is known as Cowtown. That's what people call it. But Steph Miller, what's up? Yeehaw! Yeah. Did Cody lose a bet? No, I have this stuff lying around my house, man. This is I get to pull it out once a year. The Calgary Stampede. It's 10 days. I typically shave in a sweet mustache because have to. I wish I could do it on my daily life. Do you do that sometimes? Just because you got to.
Every time I do it, my wife laughs at me, and so then I keep it going for longer. I typically I'll do like a Halloween costume every year with my hair and my beard. So like 2 years ago, I shaved it down and did my hair up for Wolverine. Last year before that was Goku, so I had to like clean shave it all. My buddy got drunk, wanted to shave the mustache down, but he tried to go for the Charlie Chaplin. Let's just say it didn't work out very well, so it turned into a handlebar mustache a couple weeks later. Thank God.
So quick story time. Best compliment I ever got in my entire life. A friend of mine knows a family that actually competed in the Calgary Stampede, and you win belt buckles, obviously, as you do in most rodeos, right? So they would basically just give them away as presents because they won so friggin' many of these things. So I have one. I have a Calgary Stampede belt buckle that you actually would win in the Calgary Stampede. So I wear, and I was at some bar during the Calgary Stampede, right? And I'm standing there at the bar sipping a beer, kind of looking cowboy, and this girl walks up to me and she goes, "Hey, do you ride?" I was like, "Oh my!" I should have. If I was like and younger, I should have hand that up and been like, "Yeah, got second place." There was obviously first, I guess. I don't know. I should have handed up, but I didn't have the. I was a little older and no longer single. So I just kind of let it slide.
You can't have a fun conversation playing a character.
I know I should have done it. I really should have done it. But I think I was like recently started dating her. I didn't want to
for sure.
I don't know.
It's bad luck.
It's in a weird mind space, but I was like, thank you so much. That's the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. Anyways, let's jump into Underdog. This is kind of what we're here for. The Underdog Ranch. We'll jump right into a draft and we'll chat about a few guys. I do want to get your take on a couple players some of it we're chatting about on Pat's stream the other day. If you guys missed that, go watch that stream. It was chaos. It was amazing, tons of fun. We might have something in the works on that, but go watch it. So I wanted to get your take because you couldn't make that stream. So I want to get your take on a couple guys we talked about. So let's jump into a big board. If you guys want to chat, want to jump in. Fan speak. Maybe Meg likes Meg. the Cowboys. Candyman Chris, what's up, man? Thanks for coming in, guys. Let's the big one that I wanted to get the first round guy I wanted to get your take on is Nico Collins, because I know BBG is in love with him. I'm kind of fading him a little bit. What's your take on Nico Collins?
Yeah, honestly, kind of apt because I found myself talking about. I think Dog Pound put out a tweet about first round guys, and Nico came up. So, I mean, like, I'm a Houston guy. I was hugely heavy Nico last year. And aside from the 4 called back touchdowns over 20 yards apiece and the 6 games partial or full missed by hamstring, he totally crushed. Showed the kind of ceiling he has. But we also saw that, like, the Houston struggles kind of creating a lower floor for the entire offense than we would have liked, even when they were just down to like Nico and Mixon. So I was kind of saying I like Nico a lot. I don't want to ignore the fact that the Texans are in like a working transition, like retool. And they're retooling their offensive line. That's likely going to be the majority of their focus in the draft. And then in camp with camp bodies, they brought in some depth guys, but for the most part, they're just depth guys. So they're trying to like retool, recharacter, locker room stuff. So that, like, everything starts in the trenches. And so it's like that is a concern. Nick Caley is a total question mark. So I expect him to do what DeMeco Ryans wants him to do. That does not mean he's going to be successful doing it. So like that's a question mark. But as far as Nico, he's an awesome player. He plays the X boundary, but with insanely good body control, hands, and yak ability. And it seems like they want to build the offense around that. So I think I've taken Nico above Puka. I think I like him above Lamb for like the type of player he can be. He can win with just a quick screen or slant pass to the house, like we've seen with peak OBJ. We've also seen him just win straight deep as a vertical guy, like Julio Jones-esque, just with more red zone work. So, and the tight end position's kind of weak. The wide receivers are kind of weak. Really, just Christian Kirk right now. No Tank Dell all next year, most likely. So I think I want to buy in on Nico, but I also want to be measured that the offense could get off to a rough, tumbly start for longer than I'd like, which will hurt kind of that advance rate piece. And I think these are the types of granular things you have to look at in the first round because of the prices you're paying.
Yeah. So obviously, I think we can probably agree that DeMeco Ryans wants to run the ball a little bit more, just based on the fact that he's a defensive guy, defensive head coaches. They tend to want to run the ball a little bit more, control the clock. That's kind of something we know. Does it
year over year?
Yeah. Does it concern you with like my concern or I'll tell you my concern, I guess, and my kind of half take on Nico. 109 targets is the ceiling he's ever had in his career. That's a concern for me. Obviously, that's due to missing games. His rookie year missed 3 games. His second year he missed 5 games. Last year he missed 5 games. So if he's not down the field, I think that's going to hurt your advance rate potentially. But also, I do agree. Where I do fully agree is in a 1-game vacuum. Yeah, give me Nico. Like he's shown that ceiling, that 30-point ceiling that he can put out basically at any point, at any time against any offense, any defense. But again, that injury concern is just too. I can't ignore it in the first round. When guys like Puka, Neighbors, Amon-Ra going much later. I can't take Amon-Ra after Nico Collins personally. Do you have Nico ranked ahead of CD?
I do. Yeah. I've got Nico and Puka basically back to back. I'll sometimes lean to Nico because I love Puka. Puka's going to be awesome, but Adams will be a target hog and he'll be a target hog in the red zone and likely more efficient than Kupp. So like for pure ceiling outcome, unless he misses a game, that kind of caps Puka's ceiling in a single game. Whereas Nico, there's no one really to take away from him in that way. I do want to address the injury part, just like macro thoughts, but it's hard to disagree with anything you're saying because like we can poke holes in a lot of these guys.
Who do you like here? Quick.
I know everybody's talking Neighbors, but I'm with you. I like Amon-Ra and what the offense gives me a lot. That said, Neighbors, he's just going to be a target monster, and I think his single touchdown upside is really, really strong.
I'm good with any of these 3. So who do you prefer?
I love all these 3 guys. Let's play Amon-Ra and see if we can get maybe like a BTJ fall. Because I like to target offenses that are going to help. Like by taking Amon-Ra Brown, we're anchoring not only to Amon-Ra, but to his offense. And in these early drafts, one of the easiest things I think you can do to help your I get around everywhere, brother. is attaching ourselves to good offenses and good quarterbacks. And right now, Neighbors totally up in the air. Could be Cam Ward, could be Shadur Sanders, could be whoever they come in
We
to
hope
play.
it's Jameis Winston. Is who we
You
hope.
hope it is, but that contract
Honest.
and his history does not suggest it's going to be Winston for much. That 1 or 2 BR week, it's going to be fun. It's going to be glorious. But
Yeah. I've been saying, like, for drafting Winston, we'll make our pick, and then we'll touch on that. Who do you like here? Probably not CMC. That's another guy I want to talk about. Maybe we will later. Maybe not.
I'm
Doesn't
full
matter.
fading CMC in these early drafts. I'm London or
I'm having a hard
Bowers
time.
here. Yeah,
London or
Bowers
Bowers
here feels great. It just
Let's
depends
go
on how you
London.
like to construct. Yeah, London's great.
So let's get your take on that, because that was a bit of a piece of contention there as well. Brock Bowers, like me and Pat, aren't drafting a lot of Brock Bowers in this tournament, in the big board. So a lot of takes are, time capsuled. I like this comment. A lot of takes are time capsuled, right? Like this is a big board take. It's a 20-round draft. I'm pretty much always taking 3 tight ends, almost regardless. I don't think there's enough of a like elite tight end strategy to make me want to stop at 2, almost regardless, unless it's like, Bowers and Kittle, or, Laporta or Mark Andrews, 2 of those, right? Something like that. But I'm typically just taking 3 tight ends. So I'm pretty low. My exposure is pretty low on Brock Bowers. I don't think it's a good tournament to take a 2nd-round tight end personally. When it comes to big board season, Best Ball Mania season, when it's 18 rounds and I'm taking 2 tight ends in almost every build, then sign me up for 2nd-round Bowers. So what's kind of your take on that? I know you obviously like him enough that you would have drafted him here, but what's your take on that, aspect of drafting time pod wise?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely started the season a little tempered and measured, simply because Pete Carroll plus Chip Kelly had me feeling really mixed emotions from a macro perspective. Unknown quarterback at the time. Ideally fast-paced, heavy RPO style, good for fantasy, good for Bowers. But obviously a team in transition, needing to add a lot, saying they were going to add a lot, not knowing what they were going to hit on. And so those were concerns. And then from the standpoint of like what Pete Carroll offenses usually do, Chip Kelly offenses usually do, focus on the run. So the pace of play could be high, but it could be very run focused. That said, I think Bowers proved to do a lot of good things, but Bowers wasn't quite as efficient as we'd like to see. Like McBride on a per target basis was much more impressive, and also more target earning in the red zone. Just ran bad on the touchdown. So, but getting Geno as a bridge, because they haven't extended him yet, is nice. But it does feel a little too much. I loved his target earning ability, but it also came with Adams leaving. He did just fine with Adams, but I agree with you that his price, he's someone I want to have a player. I'll probably be close to the field, especially for construction, because I don't mind going 2 tight ends in order to just hammer the other places if I feel good about it. But I think McBride is a better target, and it's really hard to pull off bully tight end with the first 3 rounds, construction wise. So I'm trying to be pretty measured, and in a pinch, I want to make sure I have a year 2 ascending player who could be more efficient next year in a better offense and a better environment. I don't want to discount how bad Antonio Pierce was for that team.
Who do you think here? Do we want to go elite quarterback, Josh Allen? We obviously got Harrison there, Mike Evans, if we want to pull him up. What's your thoughts?
I think it's Harrison, Worthy, or Adams for me personally. I don't have a lot of Marv, but I think he's a player you should be buying. I just wish the price was a little more cognizant that he was fine to good and has a lot of room to grow.
Let's lean into we could pull up Adams, but let's lean into the NFC.
No, for sure.
We've got the NFC going here. I mean, we could bring up Adams too, and then, but we're still same division. It's not like it's a divisional thing, but I don't mind Marv. It gives us some backstack options where you don't, and with Kyler, you don't particularly want to, if you do, great. Sometimes at the turn, over here at the 1-2 turn, you can take McBride and then pull Marvin Harrison way up, I don't know how many times I would do that, maybe once or twice, and then you have to get Kyler, but
I'd rather pull up a guy with insane touchdown ceiling weekly, and Kyler just doesn't. He's not going to be a high touchdown in the red zone guy. It's going to have to be outside the red zone.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. Do you want to do a Detroit thing here? Bring in
I think it's
running back.
I think it's JMO or Hampton right here feel great. Personally, yeah, make either a Detroit double
Let's
stack
go
or get an
Hampton.
anchor. Yeah,
Let's
I
do Hampton.
really like getting a first round. I'm pretty low on Chase Brown at this price after I got, reading the tea leaves of how the coaching staff was talking about the running back room and how to use Chase Brown. They confirmed that again once they re-signed P. Ryan. I talked to Joe Goodberry, who's, close team guy. He kind of agrees that they love Chase Brown and Chase Brown's a fun, good player, and this offense is going to be fun and good. But he's going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to trying to catch up with the elite guys. And so I think his ADP should reflect that, and it's not doing that right now because he fully expects a rookie to get added and for them to kind of throttle his volume down, which I think his efficiency will, benefit from that. But volume is king in the early rounds.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think Cook has at least established a more explosive ability in both phases of the game. Whereas Chase Brown, like what I'm really worried about is how often they're talking about him as the first and second down player and a lack of targets.
That just doesn't make a ton of sense to me as a Bengals fan. Like I as the resident Bengals fan, I think that they need to bring in a running back for sure. And I think it needs to be like an Ollie Gordon. Damian Martinez is the guy I really want as a fan, like a bigger body guy that can do some other stuff, some elements of David Montgomery in there. That's what I want. That's what I think the Bengals need. Again, more of like a goal line back, a bruiser if you need it.
Yeah.
Because Chase Brown isn't exactly that. So I hear that co-speak too. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, yeah, he's perfectly fine and he's acceptable and he can get the job done. He's efficient in first and second down, and he can obviously be a threat to catch the ball in those first and second down if you want to do play action stuff like that. But it just doesn't make sense to me that they want to add basically another Chase Brown. It's like we have Chase Brown at home. We don't need another Chase Brown. But that so I'm confused by the coach speak. I don't agree with it, and we'll see what they actually do. But the one thing I don't mind about Chase Brown, I still don't like the price. Don't get me wrong. I can't really click him at the price unless he falls into the 40s. But I feel like he's solidified his role now with all the money going to the wide receivers. They really can't do anything but draft 7 defensive players in this draft. They might bring in like a 6th, 7th round running back. But other than that, I just don't think that they're going to be able to, put any asset towards running back in the draft, but we'll see. So that's kind of where I'm like, it's equivalent to the Chuba situation with Dowdle coming in.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, so he's solidified in his role most likely. So we can be a little more comfortable with the price. It's still not quite there with Chase, but that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, I think we've seen teams like this always prove us wrong though. Detroit is a great example. They go pay David Montgomery all that money 2 years ago, and then they trade up and draft Gibbs at 12.
Yeah.
So like I want to be flexible with how lean my team readings are. And at the end of the day, I think teams just do what they feel safe doing in the draft room, and that doesn't always add up with what they need on the field. Tet with this fall is very nice.
That with this fall.
Yeah, I think
last time you were on, you forced me to bring them up to like the third round or something. And
I stand by my process. First round receiver is going to get fed, and unlike Marv, you're not paying a price that's going to debilitate you if he doesn't hit the nuts straight out the gate. I think some of the FUD is a little unfounded. And just quickly for my ADHD OCD needs, a couple things in the chat. One is I didn't say I was targeting Cook. I'm saying Cook has proven the ability to at least get there in multiple phases, not just being explosive on the ground, but getting fed with like deep targets. The Buffalo offense will just target running backs like receivers on these like 20 plus yard routes. We've seen Chase get that like an opportunity twice ever. And it just Cook on passing downs is a valuable single game play. We've also seen Buffalo be much more consistent season long and week to week with offensive point scoring than Zach Taylor, who, 4 years in a row, slow starts, for multiple issues. And the O-line is still something that you feel like needs some extra bolstering as well.
Yeah, and it's how they construct their offenses too. Do you want to take Laporta here? Mix him in with Monroe?
Yeah, it's Laporta or Jennings. I both like those plays a lot.
let's just go Laporta. Give us that
Detroit
that
double
offense,
stack.
and we don't absolutely have to. If someone wants to pull up Goff, be my guest, but we definitely obviously want Goff. But the bigger concern with Cook that hurts his price for me is this whole contract situation, and
Yeah.
it's always a concern when running backs are upset. And want to be paid better, blah, blah, blah. We've seen this story time and time again, and it typically doesn't end well realistically for the player. I'm always concerned anytime a player, especially wide receiver or running back, quarterbacks, it's not the end of the world typically, but if they're and typically quarterbacks aren't, pissed off about money sitting out.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work out. Like there's typically an injury that happens because they're not working out. They're not in football shape. Well, they're working out, but they're not in football shape. They're not running around. They're not doing the cuts. They're not, putting that strain on their bodies. And then when they get in there, they do something, they hurt themselves, they miss games, blah, blah, blah. Or it just bleeds, throughout the entire training camp.
You've kind of seen that with any player. Brendan
Yeah.
Ayuk kind of missed some camp and got hurt. I'm not going to say that was the reasoning, but we've seen players miss camp time for various reasons that are poor things. So I don't think the holdout risk is very high given the current CBA having really no player leverage. But there is a slight risk of that. And yeah, he's not my favorite price. And so that to all those points, that's why I like pulling up a Hampton, because first round running back, likely in the top 20 at this point, all indications, likely going to be fed like that. Historically, the comps for a guy with that type of athleticism, and then just let alone a first round guy. Najee, one of the least athletic first round picks at running back in the last 6-7 years, fed in all phases of the volume game and smashes I think he was a second round pick. So Hampton over here, I have those questions about Chase Brown. I have those questions about James Cook. I have those questions about Chuba, because this is a team that has shown we value the running back position, and we're just going to hammer it until we have lots of kind of in a Detroit Lions style way. We're going to hammer it until we have the guys we want to have, and then we're good. So I think, Chuba has some of that risk. Kamara and Mixon have the age and offensive, external concerns. Kenneth Walker has, talk about a guy that has yet to play a full season. So Hampton just feels like that very safe, very fun click that I think up until the second round before the draft, I'll be comfortable clicking that compared to some of the other question marks I have. And then I fully expect him to be, he and Genty probably first round picks by midsummer if they're both, upper 20 picks with good coach speak. And then there was one last chat thing I just wanted to say is like, I'm not going to get too player taking on which rookie quarterback for New York, if it is one of Sanders or Ward, because as Candyman mentioned, like Neighbors is fed at every point in the field, and his yak ability is insane, kind of like, OBJ, Julio, Nico, whatever. So just targets in general are going to be good when you're an explosive athlete who in college and in the NFL we saw just insanely athletic, insanely good yak. Just accurate targets. We would have given our left arm for accurate targets last year for Neighbors, whose floor was pretty low, with just half of his targets were just, uncatchable. So I'll settle for high accuracy.
And if you're a target earner, you're a target earner. Like it doesn't matter how bad your team is, how bad the defense is, whatever. Yeah. Like if you're a target earner in the NFL, you're always going to be a target earner in the NFL. Like it's not really going to change. Let's make a pick here and we'll continue down this path. How do you
feel about Burden versus Ayuk?
I would take Burden over Ayuk at this point. Let's go Burden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone we can feel like bringing up here? No, not for me.
Yeah, not really.
Let's go Burden. I like that.
I like Pollard and he goes. I think Pollard's pretty insulated with the team needs being everywhere else but running back, and the money this year making. If anyone's job is on the line, it's Spears, who I think did himself well to prove to the coaching staff he could be that full workload guy and make it work. So they need O-line, they need defense, they need a quarterback, they need a wide receiver too. They potentially need a tight end who's not a tweener. It depends. So this draft class is great for everything they need, and they need a lot.
Yeah, I'm very high on Tony Pollard personally, with the offensive line that they basically just bought for what's his
left tackle is huge.
Yeah, Brian Callahan's dad. I can't remember his name.
Yes,
we'll call
him. Is it Bo? Is it Bo Callahan?
Sounds about right. No, Bo Callahan was
no. You're right. I'm
from
thinking
draft day.
Yeah,
He's
I
the
was.
quarterback
Yeah,
for draft day. Bo
I'm so
Callahan.
ready for the draft.
That's such a quarterback name, though, eh? Bo Callahan.
Do you
It's a
want to just
great
go ahead and
name.
take
That's a
off
great
here?
name.
It is
Yeah,
a
we
great
might
name.
as well just lock up.
I don't see anything else I love unless you want to do Kyler and see if Goff comes back around to us since we did take Marv.
I mean, there's always that risk of the JMO drafter, and he doesn't have a quarterback, so that's obviously a concern. No badge. Let's just take Goff and lock it in.
Yeah, I don't think either guy's coming back, but I
Yeah,
think Goff comes around more often than Kyler.
definitely.
I think people like to hate on the Modern Warfare 2 Call of Duty stuff and the small boy, and it's like he still had really good rushing, and he had his worst season of deep passing, and was still a very good fantasy quarterback because of how much catch up they had to play. And if Drew Petzing figures out at all how to operate an efficient passing game that isn't just spam McBride, which as a McBride fan, love it. Please hit that spam McBride in the red zone more often, Kyler. But you hope the passing game gets more efficient, but the rushing game is very, very efficient. And potentially Kyler with Marv over a full season gels better. It's really odd to see a guy who was so good at deep passing his first couple seasons regress so poorly. But I have to wonder how much of that was a new OC again, and then completely new wide receiver core, and Marv not exactly being a vertical torch burner type of guy. He's more of like a technician in the middle of the field. So I wonder how good of a fit that was. How much better of a fit would he have been with Neighbors? You start to wonder,
Yeah, and a new Call of Duty game came out, and
Bill Callahan, is that his dad's name?
Bill Callahan's his name. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then see that the B name is what throws me off.
Bilbo, yeah. And the rushing upside's back for Kyler after the torn ACL, obviously too. That's something I pointed out a couple streams ago or something like that. It was about JJ McCarthy. I don't think people are drafting him a lot of times naked, thinking he's going to have that rushing ability because that's what he did in college. He's going to be able to run around a little bit. Dude, he blew up his entire knee. He's not going to be running around this year as a rookie. They're going to want him to be a bit of a statue, kind of back there in the pocket, just throwing slants, comebacks, easy throws, things like that, and then running the shit out of the ball, I think. So I've been a little lower on, not a little, I've been a lot lower on the Minnesota Vikings. I know I might be in the minority on that one.
So I was potentially with you, but I think that I'm glad you brought this up because a Vikings fan pointed this out, and then I went and updated my priors. Because I'm the big injury, like I follow the injury news, and I feel like that's the biggest edge to follow in fantasy. Double-edged sword, double-edged knife, no pun intended. But apparently he didn't fully tear the ligament. He had
to get a second surgery though.
Per the Vikings website, it was a minor non-surgical procedure from it was a torn meniscus, so it's like I need to bug the guys to see if there's a difference in recovery from what was injured. It might not be as major as we think, but I think either way, you should expect year one there to be a lack, or I won't say a lack, a lower projected efficiency and potential volume, at least for the first 6 to 10 games, typically for players returning to form like that. And I do agree he's going to be more efficient of a passer. Maybe by late season, you see him kind of take off more often.
Yeah, potentially. You want to go? We kind of got to mix in some wide running back here. I think I like Charbs here.
Yep, I don't mind it.
I'm not an ETN guy at all. We could go B-Rob if you feel better about that.
I don't feel better about B-Rob. I avoid this running back area like the plague, but I think Charbs is the least offensive.
Yeah, I think like he does have that isolated value, I think, where he's shown that they've shown, at least in that offense, and with Clint Kubiak coming in, I'm very, I've been very bullish on the Kubiak running backs. It's pretty well known for people to watch the show. But even before Kubiak coming in, they've shown that he can pop off and show up in your lineup with, 10, 12 points, something like that, without a touchdown, and then falls into the end zone, gets you up to 16, something like that. If anything should happen to Kenny Walker, which has in the past, then I think Charbonnet is an absolute smash if he's the one that ends up starting in that Kubiak system. So I've been taking him with a lot of contingent value, but he also gives you that, I don't want to call it a high floor, but high floor potential. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
high projected floor, touch floor. Into
your lineup a little bit. Who do you like here though? This is a thin part of the draft in my opinion, but
I'm very okay either pulling up whoever, because this part of the draft is fake, or just finishing up a tight end with either Njoku or Tucker. I feel very comfortable with that.
How do I feel about Fields right here?
Oh, yes. I just assume he's taken. I'm smashing Fields here.
Let's do Fields. Yeah, I love that.
Great call. I've been in so many drafts recently where he's going at like 90 to 100, so I just assume he's gone. Also, shout out to Stephanie, who Steph Miller also does a lot of the injury stuff. She's got more kinesiology education than I do, but Stefania Bell is one of the fantasy injury folks, and she was also not as concerned. So yeah, my memory was being refreshed that it was not as major of an injury as we thought. Stefania is Russian, and she does a great job. And with you all paying attention, I will urge everyone, if you're new here, please sub to Cody's channel. Please hit the like button. Every little bit helps growing the channel. And I see he's very, very close to 500 subs. What's your milestone celebratory for 500 subs?
12-hour live stream. The number hasn't changed. This is the third stream in a row that it's been 475. I'm a little butthurt about that. So if someone can hit that subscribe button just to bump it up to 476, at least get us a little closer. I'm very confident Tyler would be willing to come on in a 12-hour span and maybe make an hour for me or something like that. So like to do it. We got to get there before the NFL draft, or else it's not happening. I got to be a man of my word. And I don't see why we can't, to be honest. Content like this, like who else is wearing bowler ties or whatever?
I am confidently saying that no other fantasy football stream of 2025 is going to give you double bolo ties. This was, you missed Daddy Phillip Rivers, and we're bringing it to you tonight. All right, this is what you've been craving, folks. So hit the like, hit the sub, come back.
Please do. Appreciate that. But yeah, so hopefully we get there. But Justin Fields, like you said, definitely I feel like he's going in the 9th. Same with Travis Hunter. That's another guy everybody's back in on. He fell. It was a bit of a yo-yo for Travis Hunter throughout the draft cycle so far. And where are you at, like exposure-wise, where are you at with Travis Hunter? And I'm having FOMO?
I'm not feeling FOMO. And I don't know if that's stubbornness or if it's just not wanting to lose the forest for the trees in potentially a negative way. But I think just the way I've made my stand right now, if he smashes, teams in the opening 2 weeks got him outside of the top 150. So it's like I'm already a dog to those teams anyway. Since January, a majority of the hearing of the insiders were that the minority opinion was he play on offense. And I hang my hat, full pun intended, on the fact that a lot of donkey teams are picking in the top 5 where he is likely to go. I think the only way I really get sunk is if he goes to Liam Cohen, who I think will trust him to operate, and they have a very wide opening gap for like a slot. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be probably right around like 4% or so, given how I build teams. How, even if I wanted him, it's much like Fields at this point in the draft season. It's very hard to know where he's going after pick 90, even if you wanted to take him. So I'm getting to the point where I take him if he's still available in this range that, we mentioned we don't like, outside of like 2 guys. And other than that, I do like some of these other players better from upside, downside. Like I'm trying to middle it a little bit, given I do think that's the prudent way to play this contest. I will be more aggressive once I have more information. But with the information I have now, I don't want to be overweight, and I'm comfortable attacking other rookies that have just as much high upside as Hunter. We see later drafted guys outproduce early drafted guys all the time.
Who do you want here? Who do you want here? And then I'll give a bit of a take on that as well.
Man, this is another tough range.
It could go Tank if you
I'm
want to go running
okay
back.
with Tank here.
Yeah.
He tends to fall, but like other than that, I'll pull up Trey. I think Trey belongs in this range, but I think we can get him on the wrap. And then Penix went, so
Yeah.
Tank's fine. It's a dart at a backfield that may or may not get running back associated. They might have to attack the trenches on both sides, so they might not take a running back in year one. We've seen him use White effectively. My two concerns with Seattle and Jacksonville are just like these teams could draft new running backs for their new systems very easily to compete with guys. I thought Metcalf and Geno were safe, and Seattle's in more of a rebuild. So like I like Walker, but I've had to tell myself like this is a team that drafted Walker and Sharp back-to-back years. It would not surprise me with Schneider and then Clint if they were just like fell in love with whoever in the second round and muddied the water. And I think that risk is just the same for Jacksonville with the fourth overall.
More likely for Jacksonville than Seattle is my kind of for sure. I think
I
Seattle
for sure agree with that. Yeah.
fine, especially with what they have to do in the middle of their offensive line. Their interior O-line is a complete dog shit right now, which is pretty unacceptable and makes zero sense when you bring in a guy like Kubiak. Do you want to do you like Bashal Tootin here? I would take a tight end, but they all went.
Let's take Trey. He stacks up with our Marv, and I like him a lot as a contingent bet on Connor with also some standalone. He's kind of the Charbonnet of
Trey. Who are you talking about?
Trey Benson.
Oh, geez. Okay, yeah. Where is he? There he is. Yep. Yeah. I'm in on that.
Ever since
you're talking Trey Harris, and I was like, man, he went. Like,
oh no, you're good. You're good.
Okay, we're good.
I'm terrified Trey Harris is on the Troy Franklin train of like exciting college guy that the NFL was like, what do we do with this guy?
I mean, I'm 30% Trey Harris. I'm very high on Trey Harris. So what I was gonna get at with that kind of building off or piling on your kind of take on Travis Hunter, my take has been very firm all draft cycle that I really genuinely think that and this is kind of reflective of my Tet McMillan take as well, is that I genuinely think that this is an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of wide receiver class where it's going to be completely landing dependent, and whichever wide receiver, I don't give a shit where they're going in this draft. I don't even particularly care where they're going in the NFL draft. Like if they get the right landing spot, that wide receiver is going to be wide receiver one in this class. So it could be Jalen Knoll. It could be Jack Besh. It could be Jalen Royals. It could be Trey Harris. It could be some of these, 10th round and lower wide receivers that they go to the nut landing spot. There's maybe an injury that helps them out, and then they just absolutely smash. And that's the guy that you have to have. So, and shout out Kyle Williams, who made it number 2 on Chris Sims' list. Say what you want about Chris Sims. He's actually pretty fucking accurate. Like he gets shit on a lot, which is, it seems crazy, his takes, but if you go back and look through it, it's actually pretty good. It's pretty accurate.
Considering the NFL themselves aren't fantastic. I mean, and I think people have to realize like the real draft, fantasy draft, if you're hitting 50%, you're feeling real good. I know, Steve, trust me.
Me too, Steve. 30%.
I had like 20% Harris through like the first like month of the big board. But like you're saying, there's just so many nice Higgins, Royals, right? Noel guys. Those guys are fun. Oh, the other Hunter point I wanted to make was the second I thought maybe I'm being a stubborn ass and I should adjust, JJ Zachariason dropped his fantastic model. And Hunter's not as good of a wide receiver analytically as we are led to believe for the big plays. And so
do you think Sam kind of part of the blame on that though?
Well, right. Hard to dissect completely. I'm just saying, like, as far as like analytical profile, it's not bulletproof. It's not like, oh, he's on. I don't think he'd automatically be the wide receiver one in this class from an analytic standpoint. And so I don't feel as worried about a guy who has plenty of red question mark arrows that outside of playing cornerback. It's not like he's a stone lock. And I think it wouldn't surprise me. I think he's got to choose one position or the other in the modern CBA with the modern thing. And to me, it seems like film guys say he's just such a fluid, natural corner. Let him play his natural position. That's what I just hear too often, and what makes me worried about the bet. Slam Higgins?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Slam Higgins.
Oh, we way caught up at running back, so absolute smash. Yeah, he could be, like I said, he could be wide receiver one for sure. My thing with Travis Hunter is I think it's an easier transition to the NFL to play wide receiver than it would be for corner for him. He's not a big guy. He's pretty slight. He's 6'1", 180, right? He runs like 4'2", which is really, you don't need to do that. Actually, corners kind of struggle when they're just super fast, super athletic. It seems kind of, counterintuitive, but it like, look at, I think it's DJ Ivy, the guy from Michigan that the Bengals drafted a couple of years ago. He's a 4'2" guy, and he's struggled thus far as a corner in the NFL. So I think it's just an easier transition for him to step in and just be the best athlete on the field year one, learn the offense. But you're right, he has to pick a position. People that are saying he's going to play both ways, not a chance. This is the men's league, man. This is the men's game. Like you can't do that in the NFL. There's too much going on. There's too many changes. Even just like you go on an offensive series, you come back to the bench, you need to be on the tablet, you need to be watching, you need to figure out what went wrong, what could have happened, what you could have done, what you could have done different, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Right? You need that communication with the offensive coordinator, your wide receiver coach, your quarterback coach, right? You need that communication. If you're just out there bullshitting on defense, who do you like here? And then you can sound off on what you're going to say.
I think Algier or Giddens or Harvey as our fifth running backs feel really nice, and then we can hit the tight end. We can hit the next tight end tier.
Yeah, I'm not right with that. Let's do. What do you think about Garendo? Or would you rather go Harvey?
Let's do Harvey. I like the Garendo bet as a fade on CMC, but we know San Francisco loves to add to the running back room in the draft and during camp. So I'm heavy on Garendo, but I have to be mindful of. I'm trying to take into account who head coaches and GMs have proven themselves to be, and it's a fragile thing to do to lock into that. That said, I'm using that FUD to keep loading up on Garendo, who theoretically, market wise, I think Algier, those guys should be much more expensive. The fact they're not doesn't hurt me too badly. Considering that if the downside that's overly baked in might be doubly baked into his ADP doesn't hit, he's a fantastic piece because I think he can also help do some of what the Debo stuff was, which was just explosive gadget play stuff at at and behind the line of scrimmage. And Garendo famously got about 2 to 3 targets a game, whereas Mason was a dog to get 1. So I'm not nearly as low on Garendo as the market is for like, oh, they're definitely going to bring in a guy. They could bring in a guy just to be RB3. But that's the only reason why I'm not like overly out on him, because I do realize that like there's a lot of guys that fit the Shanny system for a lot of these teams in this draft specifically who just have like insane breakaway speed. That they could, but we know Shanny falls in love with the guy. Like he is putting a ring on every player that he spends a week watching.
Yeah, we know he loves to draft running backs. We know that. I think he's drafted a running back in every single draft he's conducted, going back to Trey Sermon in the second round, right? So he's going to draft a running back. It's just where, who, how much of a fit, what's it going to, right? Like if it's, someone like DJ Giddens, that's going to obviously hurt a lot. If it's someone like, I don't know, Jaden Blue, then we're all right with Isaac Garendo, right? Stuff like it just depends on the type of player that he wants to kind of, what's the flavor of the week for Shanahan this year. I think that's kind of what it's going to come down to, but it definitely could hurt. I just I don't have enough of Garendo. There was when Mason was still there, I was concerned with who is the actual backup here. Right. So I was taking more Garendo than Mason, and I wish I was taking more of both as we sit here today, but hindsight's 2020. So where are you at? Speaking of Mason, where are you at with Mason? Because I think he belongs in the 12th round. I would maybe take him in the 11th if I had to, but I see him go up in the 9th.
I think 9th is too aggressive given, like we just talked about, he does not have a receiving floor. So if anything, he's the grinder, while Jones is the pass catcher. Mm-hmm. We know that for fantasy, that's a far more valuable role unless he's getting goal line work. The irony is that there might not be a team worse in the red zone running the ball than Minnesota. They beef up the line, thank God. But schematically,
Aaron Jones though too, so that's why they bring in Jordan Mason.
Over the last 4 years, they've been below average running the ball in the red zone. So it's like, is this a KOC problem? Is it offensive line problem? Is it a bit of both? Who knows? I think he's an elite handcuff given the contract he got, given the type of player he is. I think he's going to fit the system really well.
Mhm.
But I think either guy, if any guy's going to smash, it's going to be the guy that can catch 4 or 5 passes in a game, who is used deep down the field in Jones. Mason looks like has to hit. He's going to be expensive Tyler Algier potentially with the kind of touch load he's going to get without Jones being gone, because Jones was also extended. So I do agree that I like him fine in the 10th and 11th over some of the more dead zone guys that I think have a lot more risk right now. But yeah, 90 feels a little pricey for what he is. 38 in this one. Great get. Again, guy I forget to scroll down to look for because I assume he's gone by now at that point in the draft. But I have a good amount of him because I was taking both he and Grindo as I don't know. And then there came out the little tidbit a few weeks before the trade that he was on the trade block. And whenever you hear a guy that shouldn't be on the trade block is on the trade block, I'm like, well, I'll take both guys because if Mason leaves, cool. And if not, I don't know who's going to be healthy by the playoffs anyway.
Do you want to wrap up our running back room?
I would love to wrap up with
insane. Yeah.
DJ Giddens. Yeah.
Insane value. We'll take that.
This running back room is nice.
That's really nice.
Anchored with Hampton. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I like it. What was I gonna? Oh yeah. So for Mason, would you like in a vacuum Tank Bigsby or Jordan Mason?
I think Mason's role is safer, and there's more ambiguity about Tank. So yeah, looking back,
maybe we should have taken Mason there, but that's kind of the kind of the thought process I've been going through a little bit is like Jordan Mason or Tank Bigsby, Jordan Mason or Travis Etienne, right? Jordan Mason or Zach Charbonnet even, right?
I think Mason and Charbonnet should probably be like ADP partners, and I would take both of those guys over that whole cohort more oftentimes than not at this point because I'm worried about everybody getting cucked by incoming rookies or camp additions because there are veterans looming out there that will take someone's job in camp as well after things settle into systems, Nick Chubb, etc. We saw it happen with a few other guys last season.
Do you like Josh Palmer here?
I like Royals more, but Palmer feels fine if you have a strong feeling. He still feels like just a guy.
But it's that he's attached to that offense, 13 million.
I'm very fine with it. I just won't be surprised if he continues to be a good role player who spikes a couple of times. But at this ADP, maybe that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like every deep ball that we saw Stephon Diggs pull in that offense, I'm just seeing Josh Palmer doing that. You know, like he is the deep ball threat in that offense, and it's what they've been missing. Yeah. It's something that they've been missing. And Josh Allen, one of the strongest arms in the NFL, if not the strongest arm in the entire NFL, right? Like he's been craving this deep ball guy, you know, and you have these underneath guys that you have to account for on defense, you know, Shakir, Kincaid, even like you mentioned earlier, James Cook, right? So they have these underneath guys and these underneath options that I think he's going to get a lot of one-on-one outside. And I think Josh Allen's been missing throwing that deep ball. And I think he's going to kind of go back to that, especially with the money. Like I always try to follow the money when it makes sense. And I think it does make sense here. You know, 13 million is not nothing. That's a lot of money. I don't think anyone was expecting that kind of a contract for Josh Palmer. And then when he gets it from the Bills, that's where I kind of perked up, and I've been trying to catch up on Palmer. And now that he's a 16th round pick, I wish I had a little more, you know, in the 20th round where I didn't. You know, not that it matters. 16th round, 20th round is honestly the exact same.
Yeah, after round 14, it really doesn't matter.
Literally, yeah. I always say once you get past round 14, pull up anybody you want. I don't give a shit what their ADP is. If you like him, if he's your guy, take him.
Well, and the fun thing about this contest is like ADP's never been more fake than ever. So at this point, outside of the top 5 rounds, I'm kind of like, if there's and that's the thing, a lot of these ADPs are going to look horrendously hilarious and stupid. Just 2 to 3 months from now, let alone 10 months from now. So it's like, if a tier feels flat and gross, go to the next tier that you like. There's a very good chance that you've missed just a really shit tier of guys because the market doesn't know what to do. And ADP is the only thing anchoring these guys. Because if you were in a draft of no ADPs, where would guys go? I promise you a lot of guys would get pulled up and a lot of guys would fall. and that's just how it goes. So
Yeah, we might be talking about the Travis Hunter ADP. Like, what were you thinking of? He said he wanted to play corner. He said he was going to play. He said he was going to play. Why do we listen to him? You know what I mean? Like that could be our conversation over the summer, right? I mean,
someone's gonna look stupid.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, again, like just try to be more right than you are wrong. That's all this game is, right? But
hits matter more than misses. So it's like
100%,
if I miss Hunter, I'm hoping that the hits elsewhere at Tet, Royals, Noel, etc. Like I'm loading up on rookies. I'm hoping I hit the rookies that season long are great and in the playoffs matter. Because at the end of the day, you hit on a guy, Tank Dell, rookie year, huge smash, misses the fantasy playoffs, worthless for your teams at that point. So like
yep.
it's also I'm also comfortable just being like, is he the guy you need through 3 weeks? We will find out in 10 months. So it's like I have that safety net that we all have where it's like you can get all these hits and at the end of the day, who all came on at the right time.
In Pat's stream the other day, like we were talking, what was needed in week 17 last year in Best Ball Mania? It was Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and then Marvin Mims is the bring back, right? That's what you needed in order to win. I had an exceptional amount of that. Obviously, being a Bengals fan, the Bengals were a value ADP wise last year, and then Mims was free at the end of draft. So I literally had that exact stack a lot, and it did me a whole lot of no good because I didn't win a tournament. So what do you like here? We can definitely go tight end. We need
I am really high on Higbee. I thought his role was really solid, and as a tight end, I think he's got really good touchdown upside, and it's attached to a good offense. So I mean, and he plays all the downs.
Yeah. We could do Higbee. I mean, you got
a little bit of correlation with Arizona too. Maybe a week 17 matchup.
I'm sure you're a little concerned about the they were very, and it really hurt my heart because I actually bet Brock Bowers to the LA Rams last year. I had like $50 actually. It paid like almost $1,000. It was for the Rams to draft Brock Bowers, and then like I could have cashed it out for a nice profit because it moved way up. It actually and then I didn't get it because they didn't draft him, obviously, but they wanted to. It came out after the draft that they desperately wanted Brock Bowers. But does that concern you that they're going to be looking at a rookie tight end? We can talk about that after we make this pick.
For sure.
Do you want to go wide receiver here, wrap up our tight end room, take a rookie tight end late?
Yeah, let's probably grab our preferred wide receiver of choice unless you feel really strongly about, I don't know, Schultz or anybody else left over.
Good on wide receiver. Who do you like here? One of my favorite wide receivers, Kyle Williams. Everybody knows he's getting
pull him up.
A lot of just made it. He's getting a lot of attention right now.
Fastest fingers in the West, y'all.
Yeah, nailed it. He's getting a lot of attention right now. He was number 2 on Chris Sims' list, which again, that's why people think he's just straight clown shoes. But again, he's been right a lot. If you look through his rankings, he's not afraid. And I mean, you've been on this show. I'm sure you've seen my show before. I'm pretty famously against consensus in a lot of ways and for a lot of different reasons. So I appreciate Chris Sims because he's the only kind of, big personality out there that does not give a shit about consensus. He watches the tape, he makes his rankings, and he sticks by it, and he makes it public, and then everyone shits on him every year. But he turns out to be pretty accurate most times. So that's something I appreciate about Chris Sims, and he's got Kyle Williams as his number 2 wide receiver behind Travis Hunter. So I liked Kyle Williams before. I've been talking about him a lot on this show. Hopefully you've been drafting him, and I'm almost to my 30% bags. I'm actually only about 20%, but I'll probably get up to pushing 30 on Kyle Williams personally. I don't know if you have a take on him at all, but
I was trying to find, we were talking about him in the Splash Play Squirt Squad football realm. I'm so glad I got to name that. And when I say got to, I mean convinced the entire chat to go rogue and call it that. But I'm trying to find it. We talked about Kyle Williams because a couple of the film guys were in on him early. And so, Spags has access to a bunch of that, SIS data like EPA per target and things of that nature. So I was like, hey, guys keep talking about this guy. Combine hasn't happened. We don't know who's going to, go up and down in ADP and whatever in mock drafts. How's he look? And his metrics were pretty solid. There was just concern about draft capital and guys of his ilk, but at this stage of the draft, we have no idea who's going to pop in the summer when camp. I mean, that's going to matter more than ever. We see guys like Devon Vele get more reps than Troy Franklin just because they're coming in and they're operating better in camp before injuries and stuff. So I like the shout because I've seen enough guys the last couple months be in on him. I won't be surprised if he's a 0. I won't be surprised if most guys in this range are 0 because we're throwing darts at the dartboard. I don't mind it being a rookie, especially when we've kind of like built the team like we have. Tet and Burden, we expect to see the field a good amount of time where they go based on where we drafted them. Feel very strongly about that for Higgins as well. So, I mean, if Kyle Williams is doing anything, and wasn't he pretty good in like the return game? Am I remembering that incorrectly?
I don't believe he did much returning. I just off the top of my head
I'm
from
definitely
my memory.
confused.
But he, you might be thinking of Ricky White when he was.
I am thinking of Ricky White. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But with Kyle Williams, like if you were like, you really had to pay attention to find it or to hear it, and you had to be watching, all the little things. Daniel Jeremiah has been actually not so quietly pumping his tires since the Senior Bowl, and then at the combine, he was calling him basically, he could go in the second round. He could be a second round pick. That kind of conversation is what Daniel Jeremiah was doing. Again, you blink and you would have missed it. So you kind of had to be paying attention. And I mean, I was, because I like Kyle Williams. So, and when Jeremiah speaks, you kind of got to listen. So I was like, okay, yeah, I like this guy, and Daniel Jeremiah likes him. So if he somehow gets that, day 2 capital, even if it's round 3, but day 2 capital, like that's going to be really nice. And he's another guy that I throw on that list of like, he could be a, landing spot, and he just absolutely smashes. It could be
it's
0.
funny. He has good speed. He puts up a very fine combine. He's got the 8th best production score for next gen stats, and Lance Zierlein comped him to Marvin Mims.
There you go. So boom or bust. I don't know if I like that, but I don't mind it, I suppose. I don't know if I agree with that. He's obviously a little bit bigger, but not by a crazy amount. Who do you like as kind of a last round click at tight end? One of these rookies, Mason Taylor, my guy, Terrence Ferguson.
Are you into the Conklin thing at all in case they don't draft a guy, or did Conklin go?
He probably went, I would imagine. He did go.
I think I prefer.
I think team I would have been fine with him, but
I think I prefer Arroyo over Taylor if we're taking a rookie.
Okay. I don't have enough. I've been trying to get a little bit more. I want to be at like 4% Arroyo.
Well, there you go. Consider me throwing a dart. I have a sneaking suspicion that Mason Taylor, the Nepo draft, is not going to matter nearly as much as the guy who plays well at tight end matters. So that's the only take I got. And I believe Arroyo had a pretty solid Senior Bowl, put on, a good show of athleticism and fluidity and route running and hands. And those are things that stick out to teams and matter at the end of the day on game day. And all these tight ends are a dog to matter. So you might as well kind of bet on pass catching traits at the end of the day if they've got the size.
We kind of have a free pick here. Do you want to just leave our quarterback room, or do you want to bring in?
I think let's push it with Goff Fields. I feel really good about those
just a wide
two.
Receiver.
Yeah, let's do one more wide receiver since we did.
Who do you like here? Who's your last round click?
I'm buying the Vele hype. So let's go Vele.
All right, this is my first click. First click of Devon Vele.
Well, there you go.
I have him in a 32 team dynasty league. So
he was a darling of Peyton in the camp in camp and in the summer. He pops to everyone's surprise, but to the insiders that were talking to the coaches and the insiders that were reporting camp, he was outshining Troy Franklin and pushing him for a starting spot before camp wrapped. Ends up popping really nicely before really anybody else outside of Sutton until he cracks his ribs in the middle of the season. And so the beat reporters that I trust around the Broncos say that, they're Peyton's plan for Vele was pretty big as their like big slot guy. And the cracked ribs kind of like threw a wrench into how things were going to operate. So they adjusted. And from all accounts, we heard Peyton say, I feel very strongly about our wide receiver room more than most. And then the insiders around the Broncos said, we don't expect them to make any big moves for wide receivers. They have not. They don't expect them to do that in the draft because of reasons. So to me, I like that. JJ Zacharyson, again, his year 2 model liked Vele much more than we thought. His yards per route run were solid. I think like 1.69. And big slot in a quick, low to medium ADOT type of offense. As far as ambiguity, he might push Franklin again just because of Peyton and his weirdness. And in the 20th round, I'm into a potential top 12 offense for a guy who could earn good targets. I mean, it's as simple as that. He is the oldest motherfucker of a year 2 cohort for sure. I think he turns 28 by the end of the season. But this isn't dynasty, folks. This is best ball. So I like at this point in the draft the kind of information I have. It feels like a safer season long and week to week kind of click if he's a part of the offense and installed because he's a big slot versus I'm not buying the Mike Williams thing. MVS is tough, guys like that. And then the rookies down here could be all undrafted. So Vele, solid. He's going to be on the team, and he might have a much bigger role than anybody expects.
Yeah, and one of his another Peyton darling is no longer with the team, little Jordan Humphrey, who's followed Peyton around his entire career, right? So, and that's one of Vele's biggest, competitors for targets in that offense and on that team. And he's now with, I think, the Giants is where he just went. So whatever, say Levy, he's dead to everybody now. But Vele, gets a little touch of a boost there with him now out of town. Plus, I don't mind at all us bringing in I want to call he is a vet of 1 year, but he seems like he's been in the league forever, being 28 years old. So either way, someone that's not a rookie, I kind of wanted to bring in to wrap up this team. So yeah, let's take a quick look at the team. You want to stick around for another one? Or you got to get out of here.
Let's I can at least do the first half, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, we got Goff, we got Fields. We won't break down everybody's team. We'll rip through this one, then we'll jump into another one quickly, and we'll see where she goes. Jared Goff, Justin Fields, we got a Marion Hampton, Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Trey Benson, RJ Harvey, DJ Giddens, Monroe St. Brown, Drake London, Marvin Harrison, Ted Aroa, McMillan, Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, Joshua Palmer, Kyle Williams, Devon Vele, Sam Laporta, Tyler Higbee, and rookie Elijah Rozier. I really like this team, actually. It's a really good team, I think. Well constructed. Nice work. Nice work, boys.
We did good work on Brokeback Cody.
Brokeback Best Ball.
Brokeback Best Ball, baby. I saw the comment about I do like him better on like drafters and DK, but I will just say, like, we talked about target earning 2 separate times last year. He earned 8 or 9 targets. And I don't care what site you're on.
His first game as his first. Good. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the second time it was week 12, again, after the cracked ribs, only 65% of the snaps, but a 9 target, 6 reception game with 95 air yards. So that's pretty valuable, especially if he finds the end zone. I do agree with Shoop that like it could be, I think it's him or Ingram as kind of that like middle of the field, big body guy. That said, Ingram's not owed a lot at the end of the day. And there's no, like, this is Sean Payton. There is no telling that this tight end fit is going to work. He's not the best blocker. He's a good fit for like low ADOT spam hit, but he's got a lot less juice than some of these other options that we've seen in the offense. So, I mean, he'll fit or he doesn't. And it remains to be seen. So to me, it's still an ambiguous, the entire pecking order of target earners and how it's going to flow down is ambiguous. And I won't be surprised if it's kind of matchup dependent. And so at that point, I think the cheap guys are obviously targets.
Yeah, and Ingram could be a bit of an injury risk, especially obviously with his age coming in now, but also in a Peyton offense, there's value in that sideline catch guy, the Cortland Sutton. So realistically, if anything should happen to an aging Cortland Sutton, I think Vele fits that role to a T. So that's a little bit of contingent upside as well with Vele. But even if it's not, like over the middle, on the other side, like if you have two guys running the similar routes and then you got the underneath stuff with Mims, Ingram, obviously, that could be a world that Vele lives in too. And like you said, like we know that the coaching staff loves him, and that's really all you need if we're talking about a Sean Payton offense. You know, he likes his guys. I'm hoping Audric Estime is his Mark Ingram, and that works out for me in the 20th round. But you know, we know that if he likes you, like if he likes the player, likes the whatever it is, it's obviously the stuff that we don't see that he probably likes the most. Then you're going to get an opportunity. I wanted to just touch on this one. Are you guys in on Elijah Badger and Ty Felton, or some positive buzz, solid route runners? I'm personally not in on either. I didn't like Ty Felton's tape particularly at all. There's really nothing that stood out to me personally. And I didn't really look into Elijah Badger at all, which is pretty rare. I've seen him drafted a time or two, but I'm probably not going that far down. It typically doesn't work out, if I'm being honest, that you draft a guy that far down. We always want to find our darlings and find our guys, but the reality is they don't typically work out. But do you have a take on either of these guys, Tyler?
I've sprinkled some Ty Felton in. His analytical profile looks pretty interesting. He's it's interesting. It's not end all be all. His Dominator score was pretty interesting, but I mean, he's interesting, but not fantastic. And like you mentioned, it's a lot of these receivers are going to be landing spot dependent. If a team nabs him as their go-to shifty guy, cool. I've taken a couple. I'm sprinkling in. I'm trying to be a little bit varied in the rookies I target late. But what I'm finding is I probably should be sprinkling in the year 2 and free agent guys just as much. So I'll say like tentatively interested from an analytics standpoint, but we kind of mentioned this with Kyle Williams, where it's like we've also seen this type of guy not pan out. So I'm not going to get too over my skis. At the end of the day, draft capital and landing spot, it's going to dictate a lot of that. I'm open to it. And so, and to me, I'm keeping my tabs on who did we hear good things about going into the draft? Who do we hear good things coming out of the combine or their pro days, depending on, their RAS? And then how is that matching up with what we're hearing in camp? And so it's like, even if I'm not taking a guy now, I want to log all this information, because if there's a general drumbeat year long about, he was interesting going into the draft, we were happy where we got him, and now he's really popping in camp. Well, that's a fantastic signal to follow. And if it doesn't do that, then cool. You cut bait and you move on. But yeah, I've taken maybe 5 to 7 shares of Felton when there just wasn't a guy I felt strongly about in the 20th round for a rookie. But yeah, it's mostly been like Royals and Noel, or the year 2 plus guys in that range.
Yes, Hames. That was going to be next on my list. The Restrepo,
right. We promised the people
sacrifice that we just saw today at his pro day. I saw the number, so I saw that the clip popped up, and then I saw the number, and I was like, that can't be correct. I gotta watch this tape. Who do you like here? Do you want to take Brian Thomas just because
let's do some BTJ?
Yeah, we took him on. Let's mix it up. So I saw the number and I was like, that's gotta not. Let's just watch the video, and I'll kind of just count it in my head and see how, you know what I mean? Just to see if it's just craziness. And no, he was pretty slow. Like he was pretty slow. That's definitely Jarvis Landry-esque,
You don't like seeing 4.83 at the pro day because you're like, add a 0.05, and then it's like, oh boy.
Like, what is he, a quarterback? Who do you want to go here? Henry's a little faller, or do you want to mix in like a McConkey or Jonathan Taylor? Bring up some of these guys down here.
Let's bring in T. Let's mix up the combo just a tad.
Flip the board a little bit.
Nice. AJ Brown, there's just a worry about the sheer volume of the passing attack. Ryan McConkey, I like the player a lot. There's a concern about the passing volume and the makeup of the offense coming out of the draft. Tyreek looks like a pretty clear cliff drop type of player that I don't like spending a top 3 pick on. 3-round pick on. Personally, I love Bucky a lot. JSN with the Cooper Cup thing he and Wilson feel so messy, and like I'll take him at an ADP. It doesn't feel as good as it did pre-free agency. Trey McBride, I think, clear guy. I'm comfortable, taking, but he comes back around that I feel zero need to pull up, and yeah, that's probably like my short list of guys I would consider right there.
Yeah,
I think
it's a good
over
spot
Henry.
to pull up too. Like it's a good spot in the draft to flip the board a little bit. Like obviously a lot of people like to do it at the 1-2 turn at the 12 pick, but when you're getting like an Amon-Ra there, and then it's hard not to, like, for me it's Drake London almost first and foremost. And if I'm ranking the second round, I'd probably start at Drake London. But then, as you get to these, 15, 16, 14, whatever, you get to these picks, flipping the board a little bit, I think it's a good strategy, especially, I don't know if we talked about this earlier on air, if we're talking about it, before sometimes these drafts can get a little bit boring when you're just doing the same thing, clicking the same guys, and you got to do things. And someone was saying this in the stream 2 nights ago or whenever it was, feeling like they're drafting 50 of the same team and they're just duping themselves. It's like, this is the type of thing that you have to do. I know it doesn't feel good all the time, or sometimes it can be scary, but just do it, especially if you're maxing the tournament. Just do it, make it happen, get different, do different things, do different builds, and then you won't have all these duplicate teams. So
no, absolutely. Especially, again, we mentioned with his, I mean, we've seen ADP like 3 times be extremely fluid in a lot of parts of the draft. So, and we're going to see even more shifting and fluidity after the draft. So, don't be too afraid right now. If you are a person that likes to sell ADP to go fuck itself, the big board's great because there's a lot more room for error, because there's a lot more players we're going to be flat out wrong for. I saw someone ask about the Restrepo shuttle, and apparently it was reported 4-2-1, which again, pro day report. But in the 4-2s, which would have tied it around 8 to 10th for the wide receivers in Indy, asterisks, wide receivers that actually, ran any agility, which running backs and wide receivers are running less and less agility at Indy. But a seemingly pretty good shuttle, which matches up. He looked a little slow on tape, but pretty shifty and good in zone. So, I think nothing really changed unless an NFL team just doesn't like seeing the number, which we have seen happen. Do you have a strong lean here for how you want to play this?
I'm kind of thinking we lean into this as long as he doesn't get sniped on us for no good reason, but I don't think anyone here is in the chat going this route to pair up with T. Yeah, and then potentially Jacksonville.
I like it.
So let's do that. Yeah, I was going to address that as well. So we saw a similar thing with Tez Johnson, right? Ran a slow 40, but all his other metrics, his 3-cone, his shuttle, were all good. They were all explosive. His vertical, his long jump, all those other kind of metrics that should equal a faster 40 time, and it just didn't with a lot of these guys. Obviously Restrepo is in the same boat. So I honestly, I don't have an answer for it, but we saw a similar kind of thing at the combine with some of these other wide receivers, especially, and Tez Johnson is kind of the perfect example of who that was. I don't know.
It's kind of been like a really weird draft in total, because like Isaiah Bond bombs the 40, but has the fastest recorded long speed. And you're like, how the fuck does any of this match up? And it's very odd. And yeah, Tez Johnson, elite agility, great explosion, but a tiny human being with a bad. And at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, we do know that teams care about athleticism. We know several teams like Indy, they love their like RAS darlings. And then there are teams like the Rams who trust game speed and in-game metrics more than combine to identify athletic traits and athletic fits. And so it's its own way of, depends on the landing spot, depends on the staff. And then just depends on how they sit in camp, right? Because learning the NFL is its own beast. But yeah, it feels like a very weird wide receiver class in that you've got these like big power slots, not a lot of big good perimeter guys. some really interesting athletes, but on the smaller end for perimeter. And it's an oddball class, and there's going to be a lot of weird stuff that happens in the draft, I expect, and then this season for how they're deployed and how they kind of acclimate. Because even with good landing spots, I'm going to remind myself to be a little bit more critical with offensive staffs. And I think of the Patriots as like Polk gets a super clean landing spot with Drake May, second round draft capital, and a wide open depth chart at wide receiver. But it's a train wreck coaching staff with a train wreck wide receivers coach and a very bumpy camp expectedly for everybody that wasn't a vet and already familiar with the system. And, this time around it's Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, I believe. So that's got its own weirdness and stuff, but it's like camp is going to be super important outside of just landing spot. And so paying attention to like how things are fitting or if they're kind of chaotic, and taking note that like a coaching staff that can't figure it out in camp is probably not going to figure it out suddenly in the season, and players attached to that are going to suffer for it. So, but I am interested to see the good teams, quote unquote, how they attack this draft, because there's some interesting guys. And when I see Tez Johnson, I don't know why, but I think of Trendon Holiday, just like a very small but insanely explosive human being.
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on what you said there about the offense. Like that's something that I try to pride myself on with this show. Is it's more complex than just draft capital and RAS scores, and there is a time and place for data. But I'm a tape guy. There's data guys. There's tape guys. There's a little bit of both. There's whatever. So you brought up the Rams, perfect example of a team that does an exceptional job of drafting a skill set that they know they can exploit. Look at Puka, look at Kyron Williams, two guys that shouldn't traditionally fit in the NFL, but they both smash, right? So again, like a team like I'm looking at Ben Johnson right now, whatever running back he drafts, I'm going to be fucking wheels up for that running back 100%, especially even if it's Ashton Genty. But I'm going to be wheels up for that running back because that's another type of an offensive mind that I think can get the best, and he knows what he's looking for. So, and he has the power to be able to make that decision. That's why these offensive minded offensive coordinators that are now head coaches, they have that ability to, this is the guy I want, and I want him to do this. This is what we're missing. So kind of going back to the Josh Palmer thing, that's what that offense was potentially missing, in my opinion. So they bring in that guy to fill that need that they've had for a couple of years now, in my opinion, since I guess you could say Gabe Davis, but I really think it's more Stephon Diggs. Regardless, that's something I lean in on, is like, what do they need? What do they want, and why? So I definitely agree with that. And that's something I'm definitely looking at and paying attention to, and thinking how much power that person has. Because a guy like Cliff Kingsbury doesn't necessarily have that power to make those decisions. But a Sean McVay, absolutely. Liam Cohen, absolutely. Right. He will now, right? Who do you like here? We can, there's a question I want to get to in the chat, but who do you like here?
Let's do Godwin as wide receiver 4 with a great return to the Bucs. Feels nice. Access to a nice offense, another offensive out. And I think as wide receiver 4, it kind of gives you some margin for, what if he, because it's very binary with Godwin from a health perspective. It was like, a mangled ankle. If there was no severe ligament damage during that injury, the doctors expect him to be totally fine, no impact. If there was
dislocated foot, I believe, correct?
I think it was like foot or ankle, but
foot,
yeah. And so, but if there was ligament damage, then it could be, a 4 to 6 week plus type of limited production. Do you want to do the following Kamara? Do you want to go for a Connor and Judkins? Do you want to pull up a Pearsall or your Najee guy?
That's what I want to pull up. Yeah, he's just the perfect 0 RB guy to me, especially with the AFC lean. And I think he's you could say a Kamara here, but I just think like Najee's the by far the safest floor in this whole range, even over Kamara, over Montgomery. He got the money that they're going to give him, and he is fully a Harbaugh guy. and a Greg Roman guy. Greg Roman played against him for however many years, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, right? So he's seen him firsthand. And he's like, that's something that I can work with. That's the way I see it with Najee. I'm feeling free to pull him up into the 60s, no problem, especially when I'm doing like a 0 RB type of build. This is not quite a 0 RB, but it's on the fringe. So locking down that 1,000 yards, probably 10 touchdowns in that offense, when you get a road grader like Mekhi Becton coming in, like look at what Mekhi Becton is a big reason why I like Najee Harris so much, because he's between the tackles, right? Where is he going to be running? Right behind Mekhi Becton's fat ass. Not as in like he's a fat piece of shit, but like he's a big boy.
If you're an O-lineman, you don't have a fat dumpy. I don't
exactly.
like it.
So and with Mekhi Becton, that was his first year playing the position in his entire life. He was a left tackle in college, left tackle to start his career in the NFL, didn't succeed at all, moves into right guard and becomes an absolute road grader for Saquon Barkley. And then he goes over and now, so he could be, in my opinion, he could be like an all-pro right guard potentially with some more seasoning. And then, he's right beside Joe Alt. There's Rashawn Slater there. Like that offensive line is absolutely stacked now. And we know for a fact that Harbaugh wants to run the ball. We know for a fact that Greg Roman wants to run the ball. So yeah, sign me up for the Chargers running back, especially when they bring in a just absolute bulldozer like Mekhi Becton. So that's my hard take on Najee. I'm pretty high. I'm not Felix Castro over here, but
yeah, that's definitely the bull case for it, and I think it's a well put bull case. I think the slight downsides at this point are just that you would have liked the contract to be stronger / multi-year. If they did what Mixon did, to me, Mixon last year was a much clearer, cleaner signal of, we're bringing him in and we're giving him a lot of money. We don't have to. He's our guy. Versus Najee with Greg Roman, he has used multiple backs in the past, kind of did last year to away. I definitely agree that Najee is likely the goal line with pass catching, third down, all 3 down ability. It just really comes down to, do they stick with that through the draft and through free agency? Or I should say post-draft free agency. If guys like J.K. Dobbins are still available, do they bring him in are they bringing anybody to mix? Because, it's just this backfield doesn't see a ton of targets with Greg Roman historically. So there's a little bit of a cap to like true ceiling outside of touchdowns, which on Underdog, touchdowns are king, yada, yada. So I think in the 6th round, I do agree that it's kind of like, it's right in that sweet spot of still enough upside, even if, he's seeing 65% of the work and not a lot of targets, but they're a high octane, very efficient offense. And he's getting, James Conner-esque 2 to 3 red zone attempts behind a top 10 offensive line. Upwards of the 5th round, 5th, 4th round with Najee, I start being a little bit more skeptical.
Yeah.
At that point, given the information we have now, but I think with Najee, it's probably going to be pretty binary. Coming out of the draft, I think we should know pretty well, is he the clean starter running back bet, or is he the better bet for goal line work, but maybe we don't know how much work is going to get taken away in the other phases of the game? I think we should know that pretty clean. He might be one of the few players where it's like, it's very clear coming out of the draft how this organization is going.
If they do nothing, basically, yeah, absolutely. It could also be that he chose that contract, not as in like they said, we'll give you 3, and he said, no, I'll take 1, but as in other teams, let's say someone like the Giants, I think would have been a solid landing spot with his college, coach, college offensive coordinator, Brian Dable was there. That maybe they were saying, hey, we got 3 years for it. And he's like, fuck that. I'll take 1 year in LA, because they didn't have the flexibility that they wanted to go down that road with him. So he kind of chose that landing spot, obviously very intentionally, because of how juicy it looks, at least obviously on paper. But who do you like here?
I mean, I'll take late 7th round George Pickens off your hands, folks.
Yeah, we got to do that. That's too aggressive. I'll take it.
I'm not the biggest Pickens fan, but my God, if you're gonna give me, 7th, 8th round Pickens, when
Yeah.
there's a chance he gets traded by the team that might be annoyed with him, and that means his upside becomes better. I don't know if you can name me a team right now that's a worse spot for him than DK Metcalf, TBD quarterback with Arthur Smith passing offense. So yeah, I'm slightly into Pickens over Metcalf simply because one guy he might be the guy that gets the better environment after the draft or during the draft with the trade.
Do you want to double stack with Andrews here?
It's
Or
Andrews or it's Tracy with the slight fall as our RB2. Andrews
I
tends
don't
to
mind.
fall
I
a
don't
little
mind
bit.
Tracy. I don't mind
Let's do
Tracy if you want
Tracy
to go
then. I
that
don't have
route.
a ton
Yeah,
of him.
me
It's a
neither.
similar kind of bet of like interesting guy, older guy, wasn't the best at catching the ball, but was fed catching the ball.
Yeah,
Fifth round rookie, so Damian Pierce esque, priced aggressively because he was good in the season, but was a guy that was subbed out multiple times at the goal line and in situations for Devin Singletary and others. And fifth round rookies are easily replaced with new shiny vets or the like. They didn't really bring in anybody yet, which is good. But much like every other incumbent running back that doesn't have, a 2+ year contract on their hands with lots of money, could see their work to a new rookie. So I haven't taken him a ton, but at 87, it's like, okay, sure. If median is half the backfield with some passes from a potentially better quarterback, that sounds fun. He's kind of a Jalen Warren-esque dart right now because if they do bring in a guy, he probably still maintains like a top 100, 110 ADP given his pass catching abilities, unless it's a round one running back, right?
which it won't
Ideally,
be. So, but I mean, like the concern, I guess, would be. But I think regardless, Tyrone Tracy's kind of locked in since he got through free agency. I think he's locked into a 1A, 1B type of situation. I think
yeah,
they could, and especially where they draft early in the second round, that's just prime running back real estate right there. So it's very, very possible they bring in an early second round running back, and it obviously I still don't think it kills him, which is why I don't mind clicking him. His price is
yeah,
a little egregious, but if he's falling, yeah, I'll click his name because I think we're getting basically, again, like you were kind of alluding to as well, at a minimum, we're getting a 1A, 1B situation with Tyrone Tracy, kind of regardless of anything. And then if Winston's there, that's actually a great quarterback for a pass catching running back like Tyrone Tracy. So I'm down with that. I wanted to get to this chat because I didn't want to forget about him. Jason D there, email you taking 2 elite quarterback or tight ends in the top 7 rounds to get different. Are you doing that at all?
I
I'll
have done that a couple times. So if Brock Bowers and Trey McBride fall a little past ADP, I will say that seems fun. Fuck it, let's do that, and we will just because in both those guys' cases, the upside is next year they're both first and second round picks as elite tight ends who are elite target earners, very efficient, and gave you 5 to 10 touchdowns on the season. Payoff ADP. In which case, my tight end spot's crushing all year, and my flex is feeling very nice.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm not, and again, I think that's happened once or twice, so I'm not doing it very lot because that's a really hard way. That might be one of the least optimal ways, if not the least optimal way, to build construction wise, which I think 101 end of the day, build through construction, everything else, like that's the best EV add. I do not mind. I think Trey and Kittle's ADPs are probably the most tantalizing elite tight end guys. Kittle especially tends to fall the most often of those like mid-tier tight ends. And then outside of that, I think I'm making myself come back around to Hawkinson, year removed from the ACL. We should see him return to form physically and efficiency perspective. Just the open question mark of how good will JJ McCarthy and this offense be with, how many reps does he miss with the return to injury? How efficient is he? How good is he? But is Hawkinson a better middle of the field target for a for all intents and purposes, rookie quarterback versus Addison Jefferson? I don't know. It's probably usually with just like elite target earners, yak guys, and whose offense is right now, like with Kittle, the situation's so clean with Debo gone and Ayuk on the mend and potentially on the trade block. So those are the only times I'm really doing it. I don't love doing it with Laporta or Andrews, simply because both those guys aren't as elite as I would like them to be in the top 7.
Do you want to just go down here? More
I guess
falling
we're just
value?
scooping up all this value. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, especially
By all means.
wide receivers at this kind of value. Let's just hound it up. I'll give my take on that because
I like the late tight ends. I like them a lot. I'm a
so
late
do
tight
I.
end
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
So do I. That's why I don't think Bowers is a very good click in the second round, because I think there's just too much value to take 3 towards the end of the round, or, right in this pocket right here, even is a great tight end pocket with the, like Ingram, Kraft, Loveland, those types of guys. But beyond that, there is some roster construction stuff I wanted to get to, because the motto, who do you like here? Do we want to
go? An open question. Do we want Kelsey at this ADP, who I think is fine? It's not fun, but it's fine. Or do we go ahead and pull up Jordan Mason if he didn't already go? Since I saw Fields win.
I do like the Mason click. Let's do that. Let's do that. I want to get more, but I do want to, like, one of my hard and firm like mottos to live by is there's 3 rules in best ball. 3 rules. They're number 1, roster construction. Number 2, roster construction. And number 3 is roster construction.
Absolutely.
Those are the most important things. The 3 most important things in best ball in any format are the most important things. So what I like to do, if I'm doing that 2 kind of tight end build, you can get, Amon-Ra right around here towards the end of the first round. If you do Brock Bowers in the second round, you can typically get Laporta to pair up with your Amon-Ra. And that's where I'm doing these 2 tight end type of builds where it makes sense. And then my construction is well put together. I'm happy with the 2 tight ends. I can stop there. I'm done. And then I can fill out the rest of my roster. Another way you can do it is Trey McBride around here. And then you get George Kittle wherever around here. You can easily bring in another San Francisco wide receiver. And then again, your construction is very, very sound. And you can stop at two tight ends. So that's something I like to do where roster construction kind of leads me down the path, and it's just kind of ready-made. It's built in, and you don't have to force anything. Like, I think if you're doing anything other than those types of things, you might be forcing it in to do it on purpose just to get different, which it's nice to get different, but it's not. I don't think that should be a rule. Just get different to get different. Like, get different if it makes sense, and if it makes sense for your roster construction.
Yeah, you gotta play your room. So yeah, I totally agree that if you're doing anything best ball, it is roster construction and play the draft. And the reason why I don't often do that is because the position that falls the most often are tight ends. Tight ends are the only guys that are falling 10 to 30 picks on a regular basis outside of like the top 4 rounds. And like Kittle, I've seen fall 15-ish picks. I've seen Laporta fall 15-ish picks. I've seen Hawkinson fall 10. I've seen Andrews fall 20. I've seen Jonnu, Warren, and Njoku fall 20. We've seen Goddard skyfall 30 picks with the trade rumor stuff.
Yep.
So that's one of the parts that makes it tough to take 2 elites in the top 7 rounds is it is suboptimal roster construction for all intents and purposes, unless you nail them, obviously, which, thin line. And then at some point in the draft, you will see a very solid tight end target fall 10 to 20 picks past ADP. And so it's like, I don't like pulling myself out of optimal construction unless you mentioned it lines up really, really well. And ideally, the only time I'm doing it is with ADP value, where I'm getting a potentially unique combo and I'm allowing myself the flexibility. And I'm only going to do that most likely in these 20-round drafts where I have 2 extra roster spots.
Yeah.
So I'm the less suboptimal way of allocating it from a resource perspective is slightly offset with I have more spots to attack non-onesie positions. So I will almost always try to make my 2 elite tight end builds, if I do them, either late quarterback or like you got to push one position, and you better be sure to attack the pocket really well, and you better hope the draft room doesn't zig while you're zagging and leave you high and dry. So it's a fine line. I like to maintain my roster flexibility to play the room and play the pockets. And I feel like elite quarterback or elite tight end, any double elite onesie in the top 7 rounds unnecessarily restricts you to construction unless ADP allows you to do so.
Yeah, you could, unless you get super lucky, but again, you can never plan for that, right?
Yeah.
Like you might get a room that all of a sudden pushes quarterbacks, and then you have someone fall into your lap that you never
Yep.
thought would. You could backstack
Yep.
whatever it is. But like the Najee take, like I saw a couple spattering in the chat there. The reason I like Najee here, I just think he's the perfect click, at this point in the draft, where I just need a high floor guy. I just need to guarantee myself some points at running back. I wouldn't typically, like if we had had a first round running back, second round running back, let's say this is Devon Achane, then Najee's not the click there. In my opinion, like I wouldn't be pushing for Najee if we had already had a running back. So again, going back to the roster construction, that's a big topic of the show so far, or at least in this draft. I think, yeah, where when it makes sense, you got to do certain things, and sometimes, honestly, sometimes those decisions are made for you, and the draft just makes it for you, right? The way the room falls, it's just like, okay, well, now it's going to be this. This is going to be my construction. This is going to be my, whatever it is. This is what I have to do because the room has kind of dictated it. But what do you like here?
Feels like a good spot to take a tight end. We want to get Loveland, the potential first round tight end.
Let's mix in some Loveland. I don't mind that at all. Yeah, let's do that. There's enough, like we just talked about, there's enough value at the end of the draft, especially with like quality veterans at the tight end spot. So I'm happy to take an early your rookie when we know we can back it up pretty easily with some of those, in my opinion, discounted tight ends. That's another reason why I'm not doing it too much. Two tight end builds. There's just too much value, in my opinion, at the very end of the draft, 18th round plus. What are we thinking here? Bringing another running back, probably.
Yeah, running back or wide receiver, whichever one feels better. And like I said, I'm comfortable reaching, so I don't mind. I'm okay with Quentin Judkins if we want, or Johnson. Jesus Christ, QJ. I'm cool with QJ. He's fine. He correlates with Najee unless you have another click you want to go.
I was gonna say Bayshaw Tootin, or we could have brought in Leggett just so we can bring in Bryce Young, because we do need at least a second quarterback. Yeah. Not that we really need to force it, but we could do something a little different at quarterback as well. I'm not sure how you feel about it, and I'm not sure I want to say it out loud, but I guess we could because it doesn't really matter. Let's just talk about it. With Josh Downs bringing in both the Indianapolis quarterbacks, where do you sit on that? I've done it a few times where the only way, and again, builds off of our roster construction conversation, the only way it makes sense to do that is if you have an elite quarterback like Lamar, like Josh Allen, like Joe Burrow, like Hurts, whatever. And then you're potentially taking a zero, but obviously Daniel Jones is completely free in the 19th, 20th round. So I think the only time it makes sense is if you have an elite quarterback where that's your guy regardless. And then if an indie quarterback slips and falls into your lineup, lovely, but it's certainly not something you need.
Yeah, it's always tough to allocate 2 player spots to one position, and that's effectively what you're attempting to do with the Indianapolis guys. And it can work with the ADPs. We talk about it. It's not too different from the handcuff. The problem is it is a onesie position. And so that's where it is a little bit different than the handcuff thing. I also don't love it because I think this coaching staff is live to also just bench both guys / both guys have missed injury with how they're played. They're played like running backs with the read option thing. And so you also run the risk of both guys are missing parts of the season when you need them, and you're effectively taking a double zero. Like there is that potential. So I prefer to play it as take one or the other. And if you're going to give me the choice, I think at this point, I prefer to take the guy who's the absolute cheapest that got $4 extra million to come into town, who does, by all appearances, appear the better passing fit for what this team does. I mean, one of the most frustrating things with AR last year was miss these easy outs to Downs, who's getting open.
Yeah,
you can't hit him. And we just watched Daniel Jones pepper Wan'Dale Robinson in a similar fashion. So I am pretty concerned for AR that they went and got slightly better version of AR. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts it together and figures it out. I wouldn't be surprised if my full expectation is that this staff has shown they will just kind of it starts with the owner and then all the way down to the staff. They're very volatile. Yeah. And so I don't want to trust that they have any rationality or any consistency. I think this is a far more risky, fragile implosion front office and staff than we think. And then in which case we have no idea what's going to happen when the interim staff comes in. If clean house after a rough first 6 weeks, could be like the Giant situation where they bench everybody and they start. It's a lot of chaos. And so I don't love taking both guys for those reasons right now, given the information we have. AR past like pick 160, I understand it. And then Daniel Jones, 19th, 20th round, I understand it. I really don't like taking heavy bench risks at quarterback. But like you said, the way to do it is you're taking an elite and you're hoping that he crushes and is the guy you need for a majority of the contest. And the frustrating part is both AR and Dimes at their prices offer really tantalizing floors as rushing threats and multi-touchdown guys. We just know it is going to be kind of a shit show carousel. And so
it's a time box kind of I was doing a similar thing with the Pittsburgh, quarterback situation last year, bringing in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at the end of drafts with Josh Allen, something like that. I thought it was a decent strategy. I
think if you get boxed out, it's viable, but I think you can avoid it is my stance.
I think we need running back here, unless you want to go Jake Ferguson, which we could.
I was going to say Ferguson 10 picks after ADP, and I'm comfortable with every guy in this range. So I think Ferguson allows us to catch up construction wise, and we can take our favorite running back.
I'm good with that. There's enough clicks here that you can take 4 and I'll find somebody that we can make work in the running back room. So I'm happy to just get some value at tight end there. But like you said, even if they are both zeros, you still have your guy regardless. That's kind of the take on that. Like, even if they do both fall flat on their face, which I don't think there's a risk that both of them aren't playing.
I think it's more likely both get injured and a third guy's got to come in or JT runs the wing,
Yes. What running back are you looking at here? I don't mind doing the Ray Davis thing with the James Cook possibilities that we just talked about.
I don't mind White at all.
I was gonna say we could lean in on the Tampa Bay situation.
I like Rachaad White. He's year over year, the coaching staff likes Rachaad White, like Bowles and the staff. And once again, to remind folks, the OC
you called Todd Bowles Bowles.
I do call him Bowles because he pisses me off in the playoffs when he settles for fucking punts and field goals. It enrages me. So I refuse to call him by the right name. He is Bowles for all intents and purposes because he shits the bed when it's most important. But the staff likes Rachaad White a lot. The OC was I like Huhame's getting a little self-will issue in the draft chat after he got him at 138 in the last one. But like they like Rachaad White. The OC was an internal promotion. He mentioned unsolicited Rachaad White and Bucky Irving as players to continue to get involved. The fun thing was he said, I want to get them more involved in the pass game more creatively than just screens and outlets. And all last season, they told us to our face, we prefer Rachaad in down and distance, hurry up, pass obvious situations. We know that targets are the most valuable touch for running backs in fantasy. Rachaad White gets that. Rachaad White has the size to get goal line work in a pinch or in a rotation. We saw all 3 guys get rotated at the goal line between Sean Tucker, Rachaad White, and Bucky. People probably overreact to how much Rachaad did not touch the ball in one of the last 2 or 3 games of their season, but considering the way they were trying to play and who they were playing against, it's just, and then there's the contingency. If Bucky misses time, and I'm a huge Bucky fan, love Bucky, but if Bucky misses time, Rachaad White becomes the 1A and with the pass down work. So it's like his price, you can not like the player. You can think he's a bad runner, and I can agree with all of that. But I can also say this is a top 12 projected offense year over year over year. The staff likes him, and they prefer him in one of the most valuable situations in fantasy, which is pass downs. So it's like, I'm very okay with that as my 4th, 5th, or 6th running back at this point in the season.
And we talked about it a few times already that it's a defensive-minded head coach, likes to run the ball, likes to control the clock. Like, yes, the big concern is always and always has been and always will be with Rashad White. He's not an efficient runner. We know that. We know that. No one's going to argue that. That is 100% true and accurate. We know that. But he's shown that he can carry the load. He has the size to carry the load. They've shown that they do feel very comfortable playing him. His own speak has been, he's always wanting more. He wants to improve. He's a team guy that, like, everything points to him being a part of this team and a part of this offense. I didn't hear that coach speak from Grizzard the Wizard. But that's a literal quote, Grizzard the Wizard. I'm not sure exactly what his name is, but one of the offensive linemen called him that. So yeah, if he's getting positive coach speak from the new offensive coordinator, who, like you said, was an internal hire, and obviously made it a lot easier for them to not move on. They didn't have a choice, but to let go of Liam Cohen, then yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Rashad White for sure. I think he gets dogged a little bit, more than he kind of should, but it's because of the inefficiency on the ground, which again, I can't argue with. But what did he get? Like 70 catches last year, something stupid like that.
He is the closest thing to James White of the past that you can see. Just year over year, you can pencil him in for a shitload of receptions.
Yeah, what is this worth right here in a wide receiver? Like just his receiving numbers. What is that worth? Like ADP wise, round pick wise, if he was just a wide receiver getting this, he's worth something, right? He's worth, a 19th, 20th round click for sure, just going off of his receiving numbers, right? So obviously we need to include the whole picture, the running stats, blah, blah, blah. So what did we get him in the 14th round?
Touchdowns are noisy, but receptions are stable, and goal line work is contingent. And and the funny thing about the Matthew Berry thing Steve alludes to, if you read all the coach speak, Sean Tucker's mentioned as, we've got Bucky, we've got White. It's hard to get him on the field. And then Barry's like, well, they like him a lot. It's like, yeah, but they like the other guys better. And they said that. Sean Tucker in the coaching presser was an afterthought. They had to ask, well, what about Sean Tucker? And they were like, he is fun, but we like these other, like, they called Bucky and White their 1-2 effective punch. It's like Tucker's still an undrafted free agent who spiked once.
We need a quarterback at some point, but I have an idea we can work with. Running back, wide receiver.
Yeah, I think Ertz finishes us up at tight end, but if you want, I like Noel a lot, and we could also be done.
I'm down. Yeah, he's honestly one of those guys, like I mentioned earlier in the show, he's one of those guys that with the right landing spot, he could be the wide receiver one in this class. I genuinely think that about a guy like Jalen Noel, who also, where were we talking about it? I can't remember. I think it was PPR Tyler and BBG were talking about it the other day, and I mentioned he put up 23 reps. 23 reps.
Dog.
Like, get after it, kid. Like, that's pretty impressive for a 5'10", 190 wide receiver to push up 23 reps on the bar. Like, sign me up.
He was an elite speed, great agility, and elite explosion RAS athlete. That is a
stat
good
profile.
fucking thing.
Stat profile was there. Passed my test on the tape study. Yeah, I'm pretty wheels up for Jalen Noel too. So yeah, that feels nice. My thoughts here is Derek Carr.
Yep, I'm totally fine with that.
That's basically the last guy I'm even remotely comfortable clicking.
I think Kellen Moore came in.
Yeah. At the very least, you're going to get a lot of plays. You're going to get a lot of plays. You're going to get a lot of offensive snaps. You're going to get a lot of,
Well, if they don't draft a top 2 round quarterback, get ready for Derek Carr as long as he's healthy starting all season because of how that contract is. And Kellen Moore, new coaches don't like to come in and shit the bed because they have seen the last 5 years in a row, first year head coaches that shit the bed, even if it's not totally their fault, are not guaranteed to return. So he has every reason to make this work. Carr is underrated and underappreciated as a real life quarterback, as a fantasy quarterback. And the offense imploded in the worst way possible, and he still put up insanely impressive passing metrics, all things considered. was a top 5 quarterback, if not top 3, one of those weeks on the back of MVS. And now he's getting a potentially more efficient offense from it's not just vertical attacks with a really bad O-line. There's going to be motion, there's going to be adjustments, and there's going to be pace. So yeah, I mean, the risk of getting replaced is, I think, less realistic once everybody in the building looked at the numbers, looked at the team, and said, "Fuck, man! Like it sucks, but it is what it is. Like we keep kicking the can down the road. He's here. Like it.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah,
that is the best way to put Derek Carr with the New Orleans Saints. Is it is what it is. Like we unfortunately we made our bed and we're gonna have to lie in it now. And my hope is, especially for the brains of Chris Olave and Brandon Cooks, who are both concussion prone wide receiver. And my hope is that Kellen Moore will be able to do a better job scheming them open and hopefully keep them out of harm's way, and hopefully Derek Carr learns
less
how to
hospital balls would be nice.
Yeah, just not completely suey your wide receivers, please. Just there's a safety ready to just light him up. Let's get it there before he does. I gotta fit it in before the safety gets there.
Name a more iconic duo than Derek Carr and hospital balls. Always.
Right. So that's my hope for the brains of both Olave and Cook. So we'll see what happens. But I said, at least you're getting offensive plays. He's top 3.
All of their moves kind of indicate we're gonna build around and we're gonna see what happens with this Derek Carr offense, because they gave Juwan Johnson like top 12 tight end money.
Crazy money.
3 years. They shed bad contracts and they brought in Brandon Cooks. So they're kind of building like this is it, and it sure does seem like 3 quarterbacks go in the first round. So, and I don't know that the Saints continually, as much dumb shit as they do, like trading up for quote unquote like smash picks, it's been like premium positions of need. Wide receiver with Chris Olave, and then edge 2 of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they can look at the offensive line and look at a projected quarterback in Dart, if he's still available, and tell themselves, the offensive line is this dog shit. I think they're well aware that they have to build along the trenches and try to make this work year 1, unless they get some ridiculous fall. So, obviously this all changes if they get a developmental guy. It's the Saints. I'm going to believe who they've proven to be with the GM in town and Kellen Moore wanting to make this work. And it's probably that, like, hey, I saw enough of Carr on tape last year and the last few years. I can make this work. And it doesn't make any sense for us to shed this. No one's taking him. Let's do it, So bench risk is less than a guy like Gino right now, how the contracts work, it looks like.
Yeah, Gino will probably sign something
I'm surprised he hasn't already. It's just a weird
Me
thing.
too. They're probably working on it, I'd imagine. Let some things iron itself out, sort of thing, I suppose. But realistically, I thought that Darnold would get more money than he got, close to what Gino is getting and what Gino is after. But that Darnold contract has got to hurt Gino's credibility realistically. And then we just bring in Juwan. It was my plan. Bringing Juwan with the Derek Carr.
I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, that was the plan.
I feel even better about taking White then as the locked in 1B and contingent upside guy. I think I'll say it. We played the draft pretty well. I think this is looking pretty decent.
I think we're making it work, especially like you said with White and Godwin, a little backdoor action. Plus we got the Baltimore with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. So that, and then we've got even a little Charger action going on there. I think we definitely got a hit on running back at some point.
Yep.
Probably right now. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd feels okay.
Let's do Lloyd.
I don't mind SW, but you might not like him. Let's do Lloyd.
Lloyd had a rookie season from hell, but he has continued to still be. It's day 20 of free agency or whatever it is. He's the only other running back besides Jacobs who is under contract right now. And, this is a class where he could get replaced, but kind of similar to Kyron, he was beloved by the coaching staff despite an up and down camp before missing a bunch of time. And then there's almost like I think that maybe the best thing that could have happened to him is that his last injury, there was nothing he could do, is appendicitis. And so it's like
No,
that was like
wasn't it a hernia? I think it was a hernia.
oh, I thought it was appendicitis.
It was something stupid. Regardless, it was something that
Either
just
way,
freak. You know,
pity. It was a
yeah,
pity injury. They're like,
it,
oh man, we were so
yeah.
excited to get on the, and so it's
They
like,
were
dude,
ramping him up too in
give me some
practice.
pity to end the season because that ages well.
Yeah,
Because draft day, all those coaches are gonna look at each other and be like, "Are we really gonna? We got to give this kid a chance, right?" Like,
for sure. Yeah,
but no,
yeah.
like
No,
they like him a lot. He's the only running back under contract. Jacob's contract is extremely team friendly after the first
yeah.
year of it, and
Well, right now, essentially.
exactly.
But
And we saw him be useful in both phases. We saw Emmanuel Wilson and Brooks provide some nice uh, contingent and satellite standalone stuff. And Jacobs might regress from the heavy touchdown usage. And we know this is going to be a high running back focal point offense. So right now, Jacobs in the last couple rounds feels like a nice upside dart, all things considered.
yeah, and with Jacobs, my concern always with Jacobs has been this on again, off again, not necessarily on and off again, but when he gets that heavy workload, he tends to get injured. He tends to kind of fall apart the next season. He just got 300 and almost 40, not including the playoffs, so over 340 touches last year. The last time we saw that with the Raiders, he comes out and gets hurt the next season. He's extremely inefficient, has a very down year. So that's kind of something I've been playing off Jacobs. We've seen it throughout his career. So, once is news, two times is a trend, whatever the saying is, you know what I mean? But that's kind of what I see with Jacobs. He is getting older. That is a concern of mine. So regardless of how you feel about that, another thing that I like to do, again, going back to roster construction conversation, is if you're low on somebody, then you must be high on their backup, their handcuff, whatever it is. So like Christian McCaffrey, now that we know that Isaac Guerrero, but I mean, we do have ancillary issues with the draft and things like that, but we know, like in a vacuum, we know that Guerrero's the backup as it sits right now. Therefore, if we're low on CMC, you should be a little bit higher on Isaac Guerrero because we know it's a very running back friendly offense, similar to Green Bay. So that's my thesis with Marshawn Lynch. Plus, former third round pick, 4'3" guy, 220. How do you fucking 6 foot 220 and run 4'3"? Like that's fucking crazy.
Lost rookie season.
Yeah, and I mean, lost rookie season. So like in theory, he's a baller. He's a dude. He's gonna want to come back and get some shit done. Show what he's capable of. Show out and kind of be that guy. So if I'm getting like the direct handcuff to all of that volume, which is, in my opinion, that's exactly what Marshawn Lynch is, or Lloyd, sorry, Marshawn Lloyd is a direct handcuff to all of that volume. If I'm getting that, and what do we get, 19th round?
Yeah.
18th round, like sign me up. Absolutely. And yeah, Jake Brennenstuhl, he's an athletic kid. He's kind of a goofy looking little fucker. He's skinny. He was like $180 when he was like a senior in high school or something like that. Now he's ballooned up to 240s, put it on a little bit, but he's a lot in the vein of like Colston Loveland, Terrence Ferguson, and that side, sort of like big slot tight end. But I just wanted to point that out from Green Bean. Yeah, Jake Brennenstuhl, I wouldn't draft him, but he's in that vein.
It's tough to have a goofy name and be a goofy looking fucker. That's a boy named Sue type shit right there.
Right, you better learn how to fight, or you're gonna take a lot of shit. Probably running back. We got to go here, and then we've got one more free pick. Essentially, who do you like at RB? We could reach down for one of these rookies. I'm a Jarquez guy. I always have been. Always will be.
I've been trying to catch up on him. He seems like a really fun standout. I don't mind.
We could use a rookie with this build.
Rich, between Rich and JJ Zacharyason's rookie guides, they kind of like Jarquez as well from the analytics standpoint. So anytime film and analytics can scissor each other and give me a happy result, I'm happy to hit the smash button this late in the draft.
We got to make sure we get you a happy ending. So
do I touch that? Do I?
I lobbed it up there for you. Lobbed it up for you. And then what do you want to do with our last pick here? We got a free pick. Basically, we could take kind of anything we want. Probably running back, wide receiver. I mean, it's whatever. I don't mind taking a running back here. Our wide receiver room is pretty
Yeah,
solid.
between the Pickens and Downs
Falling value.
falls, yeah,
Yeah.
we basically got those same guys in the same tier.
So I don't mind mixing in another rookie running back if you want to go down that
I
road.
think dimes or another running back makes a lot of sense here.
Daniel Jones is not a bad click.
We have Downs. We talked about, one or the other. So it just depends on how you want to play a third quarterback with an elite quarterback on the roster, just for the playoff weeks. I think either is defensible with this roster construction.
Let's lean in on Lamar just being Lamar.
Perfect.
And Derek Carr being enough, and then just mix in another rookie. I think our running back room's a little on the thin side. There's tons of question marks, but there's a lot of upside. You want to take a guy like LaQuint Allen went. That's kind of who I was thinking.
Sanders. He tore up the combine. It just takes one Shanahan offense to say,
shout.
Hey, I like him, plug and play, and zoom, fuck it.
He is a Shanahan type of a name. Yeah. Like literally Raheem Sanders, I think gets drafted by the 49ers. I don't know why, but
I mean, teams do like it when you wow at the combine. It doesn't mean every team, but teams care. And there were plenty of running backs that didn't. And in this class, you just want a lot of the guys. Cause again, we say landing spot. So, exactly.
Broke back best ball. I think we got
back best ball happy ending. Man, it's Jesus Christ. The Red Rocket thing when talking about Andy Dalton is now not going away because not only did he re-sign with the Panthers, but now there's Raheem Sanders, and I just need 2025 guys. If I say Red Rocket on camera, it's hilarious. A national broadcaster saying that, come on, have some awareness. Be like Brady in the pocket, have some awareness. But man, I think we cranked out some solid teams, Cody.
I think we got some solid teams. We're gonna wrap it up and get Tyler out of here. Thank you for sticking around for 2 drafts. I appreciate that. I will, thank your wife for us. I'll thank mine for everyone as well. But
I'll thank her real good, real respectfully.
Yeah, we got some making up to do with women, with ladies, not each other. Certainly not on camera.
Not until the Stampede.
Yeah, exactly. You come up for the Calgary Stampede, I'll show you a good time. We got Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Najee Harris, Tyrone Tracy, Jordan Mason, Rashad White, Marshawn Lloyd, Jarquez Hunter, Red Rocket Sanders, Brian Thomas Jr., T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, Chris Godwin, George Pickens, Josh Downs, Quentin Johnston, Jalen Knoll, rookie Colston Loveland, Jake Ferguson, and Juwan Johnson. I like that a lot. That really works for me. That really works. I think we did a great job.
Was it good for you? It was good for me.
It was good for me. It's always good for me when you're around, brother. Tell the people anything you want to tell them. We might have to do this again with the
yeah, we definitely got to run this back. This was a great time. Check us out over at Fantasy Sanctuary. Tom and I will be live tomorrow over on the Fantasy Sanctuary tomorrow afternoon. We had to bump our Monday stream to tomorrow, so we'll be back at you live 4 Central, 5 Eastern for a nice big board. Might stick around for 2 if y'all are good and smash that like button. Now that we got over 3,500 subs, we're on the road to 4K, on the road to 5K by the end of the year. So come check us out there. Rich just dropped his rookie guide. I think he's up to like 100 prospects, 50 of them film takes, everything else up to like 250 by the end of the year will be his model. That is free for members. You can become a member of the Fantasy Sanctuary for as little as $1 a month. So come check that out. Come check us out live. We got a lot of fun stuff in the cooker over on the Fantasy Sanctuary. I am Emo _ Cowboy. If you don't already follow me on the X machine, where you will get a litany of good alpha, good player takes, and some heinous tweets, depending on my mood and boredom of the day. Cody, appreciate you having me on, Bubba. This was a blast. Had some good times.
Always, brother. We'll have to run back the bareback best ball at some point. Appreciate you coming on,
Get
man.
this
Always
man to
good talking.
500 so we can bareback live 12-hour stream and really make some ripples.
For 12 hours straight. We'll do this. No, I'm kidding. But we
I
will
will
bring it
mail
back.
you assless chaps for the last
we will-
hour.
We will bring it back for the 12-hour stream, if not before then. But appreciate you coming out. Yeah, hit that like and subscribe button on your way out if you don't mind. Like we always say on Off the Schneid, you're afraid to be wrong and never be right. Hopefully tonight, Tyler and I were right. I got to go name these streams, and hopefully we'll rewatch this bareback best ball in next December when we win $250,000. But other than that,
watch it back.
have yourselves a good night, guys. Take care. Peace.